Bowl 51. We're at Houston at the George Rufus Brown Convention Center. We'll be riding shotgun as always. Matt Lombardo does sports radio up in Philadelphia 97.5, The Fanatic, with my pal Matt Hagan, as well as at NJ.com, where he's here covering the Super Bowl and all things Eagles usually. But once again, the Eagles aren't here, Matt.
Eric Rowe's here.
Eric Rowe is here. Caught up with Eric Rowe last night. Guys, first of all, thanks for having me on. I think it might be a little while until we're covering an Eagles Super Bowl because they certainly have some work to do to build around Carson Wentz. And the model is here, right? You look at the model with the Atlanta Falcons with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu. But we know this from you guys covering the Ravens and me with the Eagles. You don't build that kind of roster overnight.
Well, and it's funny that Philadelphia – he's a Philadelphia kid. Flacco's a Philadelphia. You got Philadelphia kids everywhere except in the actual Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the Eagles don't exactly pick up those guys all that often. But, yeah, and, between the Philadelphia natives and then there are 5 guys from Rutgers here. There's New Jersey players like Chris Hogan is here. So certainly
Chris Hogan is like the biggest story in New Jersey, outside of Springsteen, of course.
Absolutely.
The Hogan thing is fascinating, though. I mean, from a coverage standpoint, I mean, we saw him get behind our defense 7 weeks ago. We were playing up there. That was the game changer and really kind of turned the Ravens season, I think. I mean, I think winning that game certainly would have changed some things for them and down the line.
Your typical New England Patriots wide receiver, right? He played lacrosse at Penn State for a year, goes to Monmouth, and one of their scouts stumbles upon the pro day at Fordham that Chris Hogan was at, and that's how he winds up with the Patriots. And then he's the star of the AFC Championship game, and he's going to be the guy that we're all talking about this week. I don't know what he's actually going to be able to do against the Falcons.
Well, someone's going to have to catch the ball that Tommy throws it, right? I mean, like if they're going to win, it's really going to be about 4 or 5 skilled guys getting the ball and getting open, and Brady getting on the ball.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to be just exciting to watch these two quarterbacks go toe-to-toe. You look at Matt Ryan, you look at Tom Brady. I think their combined passer rating is something like 114.7. And, you just think about all the elite quarterbacks in the NFL today, and you have 2 of them this week. So that's going to be something fun to keep an eye on and going to make for, I think, a high-scoring game on Sunday.
We've all been waiting for Ryan to get to this point, right? I mean, certainly the measuring stick, and after the Ravens won the Super Bowl, I wrote a book about the team and about the search for a quarterback for the Ravens. Through and through, and in my research, everyone in the Ravens front office wanted Matt Ryan, and more than that, Steve Bisciotti really wanted Matt Ryan.
How about that?
And they didn't get Matt Ryan, and they wound up trading back and then trading up and back and up. Make sure I'm getting up.
They traded back and then
it's
back
like
up
Candyland
to make sure they got
ladders.
Flacco.
I don't know which one it was, but they traded back and then up to get Flacco, and obviously it's worked out really well in Baltimore, but not this year. And this is the point where, Ryan was going to be the better guy all along, and I'm like, he still has a nude ring finger, and last I checked, he's still an underdog this week. This is going to have to be the game of his life, and that still might not be good enough because their defense might not be good enough to stop Brady in the fourth quarter.
And then one thing that Ryan has going for him is he has all of those weapons. You have Sanu, you have Julio Jones, you have that running game, the 2-headed monster, and I believe they were top 10 rushing attack this year, so that they can run the ball to set up the pass. But I think it's just you give Bill Belichick 2 weeks to prepare for a team like this. And you look at, the teams that they knocked off, and we can all look at Houston and say, well, they're a quarterback away and all that. But you still knocked off Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers and, quite frankly, embarrassed them up there in Foxborough.
I thought so.
So they've done this before. Well, of course, Baltimore and Pittsburgh, and that rivalry that goes on.
We were rooting for the Steelers, bro. So, I mean, that's
speak for yourself.
Whoa.
You were rooting for the Steelers.
Yes, I was rooting for the Steelers.
That's not going to play well back home, bro.
No.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't play well right now.
You were rooting for the Steelers.
If Ben Roethlisberger were there all week instead of Tom Brady, I wouldn't feel good about that.
I actually root against the Ravens' biggest rival. I don't root for them. So.
You think Steelers are the Ravens' biggest rival?
Yes.
The Patriots have done a lot more harm lately than the Steelers have done.
Okay, lately, but if
historically,
we're gonna, yeah.
I mean, you know they cheat, right?
Oh, this. Deflategate was 2 years ago. I got sick of that on Wednesday 2 years ago. I don't want to talk about that anymore.
This is the first time I've heard Deflategate all week.
I'm not here to talk about the past.
Okay, all right.
I still think you find more Ravens fans were rooting begrudgingly. And let's face it, they weren't rooting for either the Patriots or the Steelers.
Yeah, I preferred the Chiefs myself.
Right.
But I don't think
Andy Reid.
I think more Ravens fans, if they had to choose, would have begrudgingly said New England. Otherwise, then that doesn't say much for the Ravens-Steelers rivalry.
Dude, you're banging around Philadelphia. There's not much worse at this point, right? I mean, literally, like, it's not like anybody thinks the Phillies can be competitive.
The
right?
Phillies are 3.5 years away from being 3.5 years away from being 3.5 years away from being relevant. So it's going to be
They're finally inching in the right direction.
Yeah, they're going to sign Manny Machado.
They have a young farm system, and it's highly acclaimed on Baseball America and all that.
They got a long way to go.
I mean, the talk of the town right now, right? It's Embiid. It's the Sixers. It's Ben Simmons. And
the
it's
process.
This team, the process finally coming to at least a bit of fruition.
His sister is marrying a Sixers fan.
Is that right?
And
he's a season ticket holder.
Become every time she shows up on my Facebook, his sister, she's wearing something red, white, and blue, and it's not Texas or America.
Well, it's going to be a lot more exciting for her. You're going to see a lot more red, white, and blue because that team is finally turning the corner before Ben Simmons takes the floor. They might have the Lakers pick this year. They could swap picks with the Kings. So the Sixers are about to be, I don't know that you're yet at the level where you can compete for championships, but they're going to be a lot of fun.
Well, they can't be any worse.
Future. No.
Right? I mean, that's
they
won
more games. They won more games in the month of January this year. So
but their offense played poorly was in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Now it was back in November, but I guess my question is, was there can you pinpoint anything that the Eagles did that a Bill Belichick team will look to not just do that, but to do it even better?
Yeah, they pressured Matt Ryan. I think they sacked him 4 times that day. They knocked him around, made him uncomfortable in the pocket. And I think that when you look at what they did, they played a lot of deep zone coverage, didn't let Julio Jones beat them over the top, contained him. I don't believe he scored a touchdown that day, if I can remember that game properly.
He had a lot of yards, plenty of yards, over 100 yards, but no touchdowns.
Kept him out of the end zone. And I think, that was back when the Eagles were running the ball effectively.
Right.
And you play ball control against this team. And you look at Belichick and the Patriots, a heavy dose of LeGarrette Blount and a heavy dose of Dion Lewis, that's going to pay dividends to keeping Ryan and the offense off the field, which I think is what the Packers probably would have preferred to do in the NFC Championship game, but they just didn't have the horses to do it, whereas I think that the Patriots can ground and pound and keep Julio, keep Matt Ryan, keep those guys on the bench, and then you let Tom Brady do his thing when he's out there.
Well, Tom Brady does his thing. And,
yes, he does.
We haven't had anybody
on this stage.
Well, we haven't had anybody sit in this chair yet this week that has made a real case that the Falcons are going to win the game, and here's how. No one has made that case.
Because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nestor, or if you disagree, I think that the only way the Falcons win this game is if it's a shootout. And I look at Tom Brady in a shootout, Bill Belichick in a shootout with Super Bowl experience. And I go back to that Super Bowl for the Eagles back in Super Bowl 39 where, of course, Spygate was all the rage back then and everybody points to that. But it was really the Eagles after halftime lost their juice because it's that 40-minute elongated halftime. They didn't really, prepare for that.
Right.
This is the first time that Matt Ryan and this Falcons team is here. First time that they're going to be in that environment where you're used to a 15-minute halftime, get in, go over some strategies, get back out there. You go cold, you're not used to it, and I think that experience really is going to pay dividends for the Patriots in this game because, let's face it, Atlanta hasn't been here before, and you look at the Patriots going for ring number 5.
Well, ball security for Matt Ryan is going to be key in this game because I don't think they can survive turnovers in this game. And, and Ryan had a far more propensity to throw picks previous. I mean, this year, the thing that's been so clean about them is he's played a cleaner brand of football, and I think the fact that their defense was so horrible that got Mike Smith fired, through the course of all that a couple of years ago, that's not there anymore. I think their defense could make some stops against. And look, when we played the Patriots 6-7 weeks ago, Patriots kicked the ball around a lot.
Sure.
That's very, very unusual. But I have seen it happen. They're not flawless.
Yeah, and I look at the secondary for New England, and we all talk about Julio, all talk about Sanu, but, Malcolm Butler, think about what he did the last time they were in a Super Bowl. You look at Logan Ryan having a really big year, and Eric Rowe has put up some really good numbers. He's held opposing quarterbacks to a passer rating of, I believe, below 45 since Week 10. So he's been, obviously not defending the number 1 wide receivers, but he's developed into a really good cover corner, a physical cornerback, and I honestly, if I'm looking at this matchup, I think I'd probably take the Patriots secondary even over all of those weapons that Atlanta has at their disposal.
Matt Lombardo joining us here from NJ.com as well as 97.5 The Fanatic in Philadelphia. Luke Jones, of course, riding shotgun as well. Anything else you want to – I want to kick to Philadelphia, guys. Nice cheesesteaks, nice pretzels.
Pretzels are great. I saw you scarfing down those pretzels in the press box the last time you guys were up there.
They were really, really good pretzels.
They're the best pretzels in town. I don't know where they get them. I don't know if they make them in-house, but those are the best pretzels
I've never had a better pretzel than the pretzel served to me in the Philly press box. I wish we could all say that about crab cakes in our press box.
They were great.
That's not the case.
Maybe I'm just an outsider, but I loved those crab cakes when I was down there this year.
That's right. You guys came and visited. We're not going to see you for 8 more years.
No.
I hate going to games in Philadelphia.
Preseason. It's
we'll
almost
see every year.
at least every other year.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit of draft. Now,
sure.
Eagles picking 15th.
Yep.
Ravens 16th. Both these teams have similar needs, at least wide receiver, corner, and those are
pass rusher.
2/3 of the teams in the league, pass rusher. So your thoughts on where the Eagles are right now, and what would be their perfect draft? Not necessarily naming names, but what do they come away with?
Well, in round one, I've been beating the drum that when you have 13 or 14 first-round graded cornerbacks and you have a secondary that gave up the most yards of any secondary in the NFL on the outside, I'm a big proponent of getting one of those top guys. So at 14 or 15, whether it's Quincy Wilson out of Florida, Jalen Tabor out of Florida, I like Sidney Jones out of Washington. Maybe you move back a couple spots. But a lot of people in Philly, and the callers beat me over the head with this all the time, you need to get the weapon for Carson Wentz.
Right.
You need to get Mike Williams. You need to get Corey Davis. You need to get
the
that
odds
big
of getting
wide
that
receiver.
guy in the first round,
right?
And the odds of that guy being a bust, woo.
Well, through the roof.
I mean, the
Eagles
wide
have been
receiver
there.
thing,
and even if he's not a bust, the odds of him being good year one is not
I'm
very
still
good.
hearing about Aguilar. You know what I mean, right? Literally.
Yeah, no, I know. And that's another first-round bust candidate going into his third year, and he's done next to nothing his first 2 seasons. And I look at the defense, and you talk about Jim Schwartz, and you guys have seen him in his time in the AFC. It's all predicated on pressure with the front four and the back end of your defense holding serve. They didn't do that last year. So you need to solidify those cornerbacks, and I think that they're closer on defense to being a good to great defense than they are on offense from being a good to great offense. I want a young cornerback, a lockdown corner, maybe even 2 in the first 3 rounds, and I'd go in free agency and get a veteran, reliable pass catcher for Carson Wentz because I'd rather have, even a second-tier free agent who on 3rd and 7 is going to catch the ball for Wentz than have a potential rookie bust developing at the same time as your rookie quarterback.
Who's really calling the shots there for the Eagles at this point? I mean,
it's not Doug Peterson.
Well, I mean, and the reason I would say this is no team in the NFL in recent memory, other than I guess the Ricky Williams deal or whatever, no one did anything more crazily outside the box than the way the Eagles were run for 6 months last year. From March through right on up to Teddy Bridgewater in September and, dealing away Sam Bradford. It was a bizarre look for that franchise for 6 months. Now, on the field, did it work out poorly? They had sort of a good third of the season, right?
Sure.
I mean, they were
started
decent
out
in
well.
September and October, right?
They were 3-0.
And it fell apart. And all that being
people
said,
bought Super Bowl tickets when I said pump the brakes, but maybe they're enjoying the ambiance of this week while they're down here. Who knows?
I mean, it is a green city, so but literally in Baltimore, that's one thing we never have to worry about. We know who's calling the shots.
Right.
Philadelphia's one of those places where what really goes on there in the weeks leading up to draft day that you would do this series of bizarre things, and then it feels like it worked out. I mean, it feels like, you got a real quarterback, so I can't criticize it, but the process of it, the optics weren't good.
Well, that was Howie Roseman making sure that everybody realized that the Chip Kelly era was over. That was him undoing the quote-unquote mistakes and trading away DeMarco Murray, cutting guys that were brought in under Chip Kelly's regime. They traded Eric Rowe in September for a conditional 4th-round pick after Kelly picked him with a number 2 pick the previous year. So they were undoing all of Chip Kelly's moves last year, and Roseman was acting aggressively to go and get Carson Wentz. And, you look at the rest of the league, and you can't argue with the philosophy to go up and get a rookie quarterback now because look at Pittsburgh. They might be faced with the prospect of going to get a quarterback. The Giants need to start thinking about drafting Eli Manning's replacement. A couple of years, maybe the Ravens are thinking about turning the page from Flacco, and the Eagles, in their opinion at least, are ahead of the curve because they went and got that guy. But this year, Nestor, I look at who's calling the shots. I think it's a combination between Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, the owner. And Lurie...
Do either one of them know anything about football? Well, I'm just asking.
Debatable. And
it's not a part-time position,
no,
picking football players.
No, it's not. And
it's not a hobby.
The big story broken by Jeff McClain of The Inquirer and Mike Garafolo of NFL Network and Tim McManus, my colleague at The Fanatic and at ESPN. Jeffrey Lurie's taking on a much more hands-on role, and Lurie actually stepped in, according to multiple reports, to block quarterback coach John DeFilippo from interviewing for the Jets offensive coordinator job because they wanted to stick in Philadelphia to help mentor Carson Wentz after promising him last year they wouldn't stand in the way. So I think that there might be the makings of, if not turmoil, a little bit of frustration once again, which is not far from the norm with the Eagles. There's always front office drama. There's always, the never-ending soap opera of that organization. But when you hear moves like that, you hear reports of the owner taking on a more hands-on approach, I think we're primed for another busy, tumultuous, drama-filled offseason with the Eagles.
Well, we've seen the improvement of the Giants. It's clear that the Cowboys are,
the team to beat.
The team to beat. And we know plenty of Redskins people around that feel pretty good about their quarterback and the kind of year they've had.
They're going to have
the
to
fact
pay
that they
him,
have some
if they
stability.
keep him, right. If they keep him, and at what cost?
And what's their other option?
Well, but they have 4 really good wide receivers right now. You pay him, and they're gonna have to. You're not gonna be able to keep all those guys. So you see what happens.
I don't speak French, but I would take Pierre Garçon.
The Ravens absolutely would take Pierre Garçon.
I
know they would.
Yeah,
if he's available.
He fits their scheme pretty well, right?
Matt, who's winning this game?
I like the Patriots. I'm not betting against Brady. I'm not betting against Belichick with 2 weeks to play. I think it's high-scoring game. New England hoists the trophy.
So that's why you bring him on. He's a wise guy. Now, not that I'm agreeing, I'm doing all I can do to beat Tom Brady this week, but I would put American money on it.
Dude, how great is it going to be
when
Roger Goodell has to stand on that stage and hand the Lombardi Trophy to Belichick and Kraft and Brady? That is the moment of my week. That's what I am hoping to say.
All that being said, when all the crap went down last year and all that, did we ever really believe that moment wouldn't happen at some point? I guess we start to bet against Brady a little bit just because of age, right?
Sure.
And you just feel like,
he's
at some point
almost 40 years old.
But when it happened and it all went down, we felt like there was a 50-50 shot at some point he'd have to hand the trophy to Tom Brady, right?
Yeah, you would, but we haven't seen it yet. And this
right,
is
until you see it, you want to, there's still that anticipation.
And I want a repeat performance of Robert Kraft on the podium from 2 weeks ago.
There was a lot of acrimony. Absolutely. All right, we'll step out. We're going to take a break. Matt Lombardo here. You can follow his journey at Matt Lombardo 97.5 out on Twitter as well as at NJ.com. He's here covering the Super Bowl. Luke's here. I'm here. We're out in the Bayou Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear. Our morning newspaper ships every morning to your email inbox via planetfitness.com. Just sign up for it at WNST.net. And our tech service brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. I'm Nestor. He's Luke. We are WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore. And we never stop talking Baltimore sports.